I'm Judy Stiles. Thank you for joining me this week on Newsmakers. Well, many organizations throughout the region have special events throughout the years, and many have special events ongoing or needs ongoing to be met. Today we're visiting with the Community Blood Center of the Ozarks, finding out about what's happening and helping people in that area. We have Pilgrim and Belinda Belk. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
And you're an example of an organization that is meeting needs year-round.
Yeah.
It's not just we're going to have a special blood drive, we're going to do this once and it's on.
Yeah, Community Blood Center of the Ozarks donors are responsible for providing the blood for all the patients at over 40 area hospitals. And that includes all hospitals in Springfield, in Joplin, 11 hospitals in northwest Arkansas. It's an important distinction that we like to make too, is that the blood you're giving, when you give it to Community Blood Center of the Ozarks, goes to local donors, truly local donors. We are the exclusive provider to those hospitals. So when you give for us, you're giving for friends and family, and we like to hang our hats on that.
So when you say Ozarks, you're truly talking about the Ozarks,
Absolutely.
Southwest Missouri, Northwest Arkansas, in this region that we're viewing and people are watching us. Number of hospitals, people may not realize that there are that many. You say 40 or so hospitals?
Yeah, over 40. We went over the 40 mark, and in fact, it fluctuates a little bit and has over the past year. So for all our marketing materials, instead of trying to get the number right, we just say over 40. I believe now it's around 42.
Right, so that continues to change. And you've been around for 25 years now? A little bit of history for our viewers. Tell me a little bit about how long you've been here.
We began in 1995, September of 95, and it was out of a need of the local hospitals needing to take control and provide the blood for our local patients. And we're knocking on the 25th birthday door, and we'll be celebrating that a little bit, but very proud of that distinctive responsibility and honor. We are honored and blessed with our donors. They respond so well in our area, and that is exactly why and what we do every day. We need about 225 units of blood every day to meet those hospitals' needs. It's a huge responsibility, but our donors respond, and we're very blessed and thankful for them.
Great. Well, today we'll talk about the donors and what some of the requirements that they have. And I'm curious also about the hospital. Sounds like it's a real collaborative effort. Then it's going to take some organization for you to get the blood in and which hospitals need it. I know every once in a while I see a news release, we need a certain type of blood. A lot of communication going on.
A lot goes into the weight and the amount of blood that we get. As Belinda said, 225 donations per day, and you got to realize that's true whether it's a Saturday or Christmas Day, or we still need the same amount of blood. So we are also tasked with having just enough blood on hand to meet needs. We like to have at least a 3-day supply so we can meet an area emergency should it arise, but we're always trying to walk on the top of the fence, right? We don't want to have too little blood, because then we won't be able to serve our customers, our hospital customers. So if we need to, we don't want to have too much blood either, because then we have to get rid of blood. Blood has a short shelf life, 42 days for red cells, 5 days for platelets. So a very short shelf life. We don't want a wasted drop. That's disingenuous to the donor that gave us that blood. So we try to walk that line every single day. We're constantly monitoring our inventory, our upcoming schedule. It's why it's so important whenever we have a drive that is going to take, say, 50 units. We've got that as a goal.
Right.
We've got to bring in those 50 units. This past Labor Day weekend, we had a period of time where we didn't have any collections because of the holiday.
Right. People took the day off.
Came back the last week, and collections were down. Donations were down just a little bit over a period of 3 or 4 days. When that happens, when we're expecting 225 a day and we get 150, 175 a day, it doesn't take very long before we're on the wrong end of that spectrum, right? So then we need to pump it up. We need to get people to go and start giving again. And so it's just a constant balancing act. I think over 25 years now we've got it so that it's not exactly a science, kind of an art. Not exactly a science, but it's something that I feel we do pretty well.
So you really have to kind of balance the hospitals communicating with you on their needs,
right,
and then what are the supplies to meet those needs?
Exactly.
Putting that together. Now we're saying Community Blood Center of the Ozarks. We're obviously recording this in Joplin. Are you based out of a certain city for headquarters?
Yes, our headquarters is in Springfield. We began there, but we have offices here in Joplin at the Joplin Center. We're just inside the North Park Mall, the original entrance of the North Park Mall. Then we have 2 facilities in Arkansas, in Bentonville and Springdale. So we're in those 4 facilities.
So you have the headquarters, and then tell me the story of blood when it's donated. Somebody goes to whether a blood drive or one of your centers, then where does it go from there after it's collected? Let's kind of walk them through that process.
If you give a whole blood donation, and at places like Missouri Southern, where we're having a blood blood drive coming up, you'll get that whole blood donation. We never give whole blood to patients in a hospital. We divide it up into its component parts. So we divide it up into platelets, plasma, and red cells. The red cells will go to somebody. The red cells are the oxygen-giving part of the blood. Platelets are the sticky part of your blood that help to clot. We'll give that to a cancer patient or something like that. Plasma may go to a burn victim or somebody completely different. So that's what we say one donation can save multiple lives, is because we're using it in different ways. So whenever you get the whole blood donation, it's taken back to our offices in Springfield. We take test tubes of every donation. We fly them to Dallas, Texas every night, and they're tested down there at that facility. Tested for things like West Nile virus, syphilis, HIV, all the different bloodborne tests the FDA tells us to test for.
This regulated by the government, obviously.
Right, exactly. The FDA is our boss here, right? We're what's considered a pharmaceutical manufacturer, so we're treated that way. But while they're testing overnight the blood samples that we provide them, we are processing the blood. We're dividing it up into its component parts. We put it on a big centrifuge, put the blood donations in there. By spinning them very quickly, we separate the components of the blood. So then we express them off into different bags and different tubes and store them, and that's the way we do that. So we get the go from the people that have been testing the blood, and those units that have been processed that day will be released to area hospitals. And
so within a day or so, they're ready to go.
It's quick. Next day turnaround kind of a thing, yes.
Great. And you're able to track donor John Doe Sue Smith, his or her blood all the way through the system. You have a system of keeping track.
Got to, because the FDA mandates it. If something goes wrong with the transfusion, if there's something that we skipped, and it doesn't happen very often at all, but if there's a mistake that has been made, we have the ability to look back. If a person comes back and their test tube tests for something that we're hepatitis or HIV, heaven forbid, or something like that, we're able to look back and contact that donor and say, hey, we found this. You might want to go see your doctor because this is what we found. Sometimes it's a false positive, but other times it really alerts somebody to something life-threatening that
they may not have been aware of.
That they may not have been aware of. That's one of the good things about blood donation, is you get a good barometer of where your body's at in terms of your overall health.
So it's helping you as a donor as well as the patients who are benefiting from the blood as well. So then you have a system of trucks that I guess would run, or vehicles that would run to the different hospitals and help them refill their in-house, like a storage or whatever you would do for the blood.
That's exactly right. Every day we are fulfilling, especially the larger hospitals. Obviously they're going to use more blood, so we would go there, but we do keep track. Everything is computerized and barcoded. We know exactly who gave it, and where it is at all times. So that's the amazing thing about the technical part of donating blood. But when you're giving blood, you're going to go in and register with your proper ID, your proper identification, make sure you are who you say you are.
Your photo license?
Exactly, your driver's license. You're going to answer medical health history questions, a quick mini physical, so to speak, or answer health questions. Where have you been traveling? What have you been doing? Have you had this disease or that? We're going to take a drop of blood from your finger for iron. Make sure you're in that safe zone.
Because you can't give if you're not doing well enough of iron.
That's exactly right. The first question, of course, is, are you feeling well and healthy today? That's number one. And then we would, take the iron, drop of iron, and take your temperature, your blood pressure, make sure those are all in safe ranges. Then you donate, and then you have a snack and get a free t-shirt, usually. And so the whole process is about 45 minutes to an hour, about 10 or 15 minutes in each of those places. So it's a very short amount of time to make such an incredible difference in someone's life.
I don't know if someone says, I really don't know what type of blood. They see the news releases that say we need O negative or B positive, whatever.
Exactly.
They say, I don't know what type of blood I are. Are you able to help them out with that?
That's right. And that's part of the testing that Chris was referring to, not only the diseases, but of course we're going to blood type you, and you will know that from that point forward. But if we ever were in an emergency, probably you would get O negative blood, which is the universal donor, to get someone stabilized, and then they would give you type specific after you were stabilized. But it's always fun to know what type you are, and you would know that. We'll give you a card and tell you so.
By the way, it's hereditary. It's like eye color or hair color. Your mother and father, your birth mother and father will determine your blood type, and it's all it's odds and probabilities. If you've got two recessive red-headed genes, you might be red-headed. Blood typing is the same way. You're probably going to be pretty close to what your parents were.
Now you mentioned emergency situations. How do you gear up when there are, unfortunately, some disasters or emergencies, or maybe even we unfortunately have accidents on the interstate where a lot of people end up in the hospital or something?
We can go back to the Joplin tornado just for a recent example of something like that happening. The Joplin tornado was unique in that a whole bunch of blood was needed right at the very start. We were fortunate at the time to have enough enough blood on the shelves to meet those emergency needs. The problem was with the backfill, right? The people that had given blood prior to that disaster, that was the blood that was used for those victims.
So it was ready to go.
Right.
Exactly.
We had a tremendous outpouring of support both here in Springfield, our whole organization wide, people wanting to give after that event, right? To the point that we had to, at some point, to say, hey, hold up. You
want to do it in stages.
Give next week, so in 42 days we don't have thousands of donations going bad, right? But the community support was just tremendous. We were fortunate. If there ever was an instance where we wouldn't have enough blood, we're a member of an organization called America's Blood Centers. It's a consortium of independent blood centers. We provide about 60% of the total country's blood supply. We can call on them to help fill our shelves.
So they'll bring it to this part of the area.
They will bring it to this part of the area, and we're able to help in positions like that as well. Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans about a decade and a half ago, we were able to ship blood down to New Orleans to help there. So we try to help each other as independent blood centers. We've kind of got a mindset of let's help each other if we can, and we do that through that system.
So it's not an isolated world, it's a nationwide effort, or I guess perhaps even international when you're looking at the needs for blood and tying that together. So the examples of people who need blood, we were talking about people needing blood, and obviously people think, well, somebody's in an accident, they're bleeding, but what are some other uses of the blood? It's more than just, I need to replace the blood that I'm losing.
Right. There are many reasons why. My own personal story was my father, who was a 40-year cardiac patient, and he used about 7 units in his when he had his quadruple bypass surgery, and then later in his life, when he had various procedures, he needed additional units to strengthen him, give him his strength back and all. So cardiac care, obviously. Cancer is another huge component, reason why we give. Burn victims are another one, and I would say those were probably the top 3, wouldn't you, Chris?
Blood disorders are
There you go.
a number of different transfusions take place on a regular basis from
Right.
people with Crohn's disease and things like that that require transfusions on the regular. There are a bunch of people like that, and they need blood all the time.
So they know it's going to be an ongoing
with their
thing of their
weekly
life.
or once every couple of week transfusions. That's why it's important to be on the shelf. Here's a good statistic. If you live to age 70, there's about a 90% chance that you're going to use blood at some point in your life. Think about that for a minute, and then think about, even if you don't, you're going to know somebody who has, a friend, a neighbor. A couple of years I became a blood recipient myself, and so it kind of came full circle for me. I went from donor to recipient, and I was so happy the blood was there when I needed it, and confident in the safety and quality of the blood too, because I've worked there for 15 years, and I know the care that this organization takes in trying to meet the area's needs.
And this blood helps people of all ages. You mentioned older people, but as far as children as well. If children are going through surgery and needs.
Anyone that would need it. O-negative folks can also become what we call pediatric donors now that can help the NICU babies. That's another specialty. When we do our testing and we find special antigens and those kind of things, then there's little details that we can find out that it can help special people like those NICU babies.
So the people who are O-negative probably are called on perhaps quite a bit to say, help us out.
They are. O-negative donors represent about 6% of our population, but the fact that it can be given to anybody under any circumstance means that if somebody rolls in after a motorcycle accident to a hospital emergency room, if they don't have time to type that person's blood, they're grabbing O-negative off the shelf because they know that their body can take it. If you get the wrong type of blood, your body will reject it, just like any foreign substance, and the consequences could be severe, even including death.
All your organs and everything.
You have to make sure that it's the right stuff. O-negative is used far more than its fair share, so yeah, we put a little pressure on our O-negative donors, our universal donors, to give as often as they can. And once again, they're wonderful in their resolve, and they know their blood's special, and I think they feel kind of special giving it.
Well, how often can someone give blood? You talked about the donation process and what you go through. So is there a frequency of how often someone can be a donor?
That's a great question. Yes, actually, a person can give 6 times a year. You can give every 8 weeks, 56 days to be exact, but about every 8 weeks. So if we would just be in a great position if folks would give 6 times a year. That doesn't happen a lot, but if people could give 1 or 2 times a year, what a relief we would see in our blood supply. And so that's what we urge people to give whenever they can, especially when you're next to a holiday. Summertime is another very difficult time, very challenging
People
time.
are taking vacations.
Absolutely. They're on vacation, they're traveling, they're off their schedule, kids are out of school, and yet we still need to bring that blood supply in because of that. So summertime, wintertime, for the same reason, weather slows us down. We can't get to last winter was
We
a
had those
perfect
ice storms.
example.
You're like, you
my.
can't get in there to get
Yes,
it. Right?
it was really quite a challenge last winter. Previous winters, not that big of a deal, but last winter was a huge challenge, and delaying or canceling drives and then having to make that up. And we still need that blood to come in. People are still sick, they're still hurt, they're still needing that blood.
It's not a seasonal need, it's a year-round need.
If there's an ice storm, we still need 200 donations, right? We just got to find a way to get it. And so a lot of, as Belinda said, our challenging times are during the summertime and during the holidays, from Thanksgiving, say, to the first couple of weeks of January. One of the reasons for that is we get a bunch of blood from area schools. We do blood drives at over 140 area high schools, virtually all the universities in the area, from Missouri State to the University of Arkansas to Missouri Southern. They all do blood drives with us, and a third of our total collections come from those students.
So when they're not in school, you're not have that access to their blood.
Right, so that explains the shortage. So we like to do drives at schools because number one, we like numbers. We like there to be numbers where people are. And so schools are places where people congregate. People likely to donate are congregate. Young people today are usually more than willing to try something new, right? We're trying to get them to be donors for life, to show them a positive thing they can do that doesn't cost them a penny and can have a real community impact, right? So we hope that by a good experience in their first or second donation, they'll say, hey, this is pretty cool, and they can do that until they're old and gray and help hundreds and hundreds of people. But so we like to do that, and we do it simply for the fact that they are willing to, and that's something we're really proud of our students for doing. By the time they get to a place like Missouri Southern, chances are they've already encountered a blood drive that we've done at their high school level, right? So they're familiar with us, familiar with the process, and so we love those high school and college age donors, and we hope they do continue to donate.
And what is the youngest age? You say high school. There are some younger people in the high schools.
That's right. Actually, 16-year-olds are allowed to give with their parents' or guardians' consent. We have a special form for them to fill out. So 16-year-olds with guardians' consent, but 17 and above, you are good to donate. No upper age limit, as Chris said, as long as you're feeling well and healthy. Medicines, we have several questions we need to ask. Medicines don't necessarily preclude you from giving. Travel doesn't necessarily. I mean, we have more
There's certain
more
parts
questions.
of the world you have to be careful.
Exactly. Now there are some that it's an absolute no. Thank you for coming in. You can't give, but those are fewer than they are more. So please call or come in when we have a blood drive and ask. And you don't assume that you can't, because you probably can.
Now, there's kind of myths about giving. Somebody says, well, I don't weigh enough. Are there weight limits and things like that?
110. Thank you for asking that. Yes, 110 pounds, and that's without your backpack.
That's why those 40-pound backpacks make a difference.
We see that in the high school and the college age. Yeah, that's without the backpack. But yes, 110 pounds or more.
So when someone comes in, do you actually weigh them to see what their weight is if they look smaller? Or
We take their word for it, but sometimes we can eyeball it if we know they're fudging just a little bit. Because it actually does change the chemical balance. I mean, there's a reason 110. We're simply taking 1 pint of blood. We have roughly 8 to 10, depending on what size we are, but we're taking that 1 unit, which is not that big of a deal if you're 110 pounds or more. If it's lower than that, you're really going to suffer.
It's going to affect the donors.
It is. And we want, as Chris said, we want you to have fun and know that what you're doing is making such a profound difference in someone's life. We don't want you to feel poorly. And you will. And you will. It just is too much.
That said, whenever you go to donate, there's a couple things you can do to help facilitate a good donation.
What you need to do to prepare.
Number one is hydrate yourself, okay? Drink water before, the night before, the day of, even after your donation. Be sure to stay hydrated with water. No caffeinated juices, nothing like that. Not even tea. Tea can reduce your iron levels to the point where you may not be able to donate. But lots of water. Eat a good meal the night before and the morning before your donation. And we're not talking about a Red Bull and something out of a vending machine.
You want a good, well-rounded breakfast.
Some cereal, some juice. Get yourself some fruit or something like that to make sure that you're ready. Those two things can go a long way towards helping ensure you have a successful donation.
Right.
Well, and I often talk about, like, if you're a runner or running a 5K, you wouldn't anymore just get up and start running. You would carb up the night before. You would have a good meal and really hydrate. It's the same thing. We're going to donate blood. Your body needs to be prepared. It's no big deal if your body is prepared. So that's
your
the
body's
ticket.
prepared and you give blood. What about the afterward? You mentioned afterwards they can, I guess, rest for a while. You have something to help rehydrate or drink or help them get their energy back?
Yes, we have folks hang out with us for 10, 15, 20 minutes in the canteen, have a snack, have some water, some Gatorade, just to replenish. If you're going to have a reaction, typically it's in that 15 to 20 minute range. So we have folks stay with us for a little while. But after that, we want you to take the day off. You've done a good deed. You've helped save 2 or 3 people's lives. You deserve the day off.
It doesn't always happen that way.
No,
though,
go back to the office. Go back to the classroom.
Yeah, you got to go back to your office.
I tease the ladies that they don't even have to cook dinner that evening. They can stop and get something on the way home. They usually agree with me.
Well, you mentioned Missouri Southern, and we'll use this as an example of a planned campus-wide blood drive is coming up here at Missouri Southern. Do you work with campus organizations? How do you come to campus or come to college or high schools?
We do. We're here on the campus twice a year at this time. We have a spring drive with the biology club. They're wonderful. Dr. Renner and her team are just fantastic. And then in the fall, which is coming up in September, we're with the Student Nursing Association, which that's an appropriate group to help us out. Actually, both groups are perfect to help us out. But they both do just a tremendous job in preparing, making it fun, getting the word out, and helping us out the day of the blood drive.
So they help with the recruitment, getting the volunteers, people willing to come in and spread the word on the campuses and things like that.
Exactly. We provide, the posters and that kind of thing. That's what Chris does an excellent job with, the communications and all. But there's nothing like the host group to take it to the next level and do those Facebook event pages and things like that for their groups.
I would say that the person with boots on the ground at the place where you're going to hold the drive, they're some of the most important people. Belinda here is excellent at providing the materials and the expertise and the knowledge, but then it's up to that organization or that group or that individual that's running that blood drive at your business or church or school to really get the word out, to really become a champion for a cause. Our most successful blood drives have those people in place, people that are willing to take that goal of 45 and say, yes, we can do that, we're going to do that, and take the steps to make it happen.
So each group has their own goal for their drive.
Right.
Missouri Southern has a goal coming up as well?
Yes, we do. Our goal is actually 25, but I know we're going to blow that out of the water. I think I need to raise that a little bit because this group is, last year we saw 45 and got 30 units last year on a goal of 25, and I know we'll do that at least, if not more, this year.
And
so
this is open to students, faculty, staff, anybody here on campus?
Yes, it is. We're going to be in the Connor third floor Connor Ballroom that day on the 23rd of September.
And how early do you start in the morning then?
We'll be here from 10 to 3 that day. We'll be here an hour early to get set up, and the SNAs will come and help us do that. But the drive will be from 10 to 3 on the 23rd of September.
And I could see a little bit of tie with the curriculum and the area of study with nurses especially. They're going to be working maybe in the facilities that'll be using this blood down the road.
Absolutely, they will be. And when I met with them, you can see the passion in their eyes because this is their mission field. This is what they have decided to do with their lives and what a tremendous thing they're doing. And they are on it. They've already been contacting me and putting their Facebook event pages together, and that's what it takes, telling their friends.
And I know you have a website. I don't know if they've shown it while we've been talking, but if people want more information as we're going along. You have a website that'll give them a lot of information, not just about maybe what's coming up in the next week, but your ongoing programs.
Pretty robust website too, cbco.org. You can find out where to donate, what blood drives are coming to your area. Up in the top there's a little blue box that says donate blood. You click on that box and you can go find a blood drive based on your geography, based on zip code, based on a particular city, based on a drive name, something like that. So you're going to be able to find those blood drives that are coming up. They've got hours for the centers. We're also very active on social media. We have over 5,000 Facebook followers. On our hashtag is Ozarks Blood, all one word, Ozarks Blood. We are active on Twitter. We are active on Instagram, and we do a lot of that kind of stuff. And as we saw with the Joplin tornado, for instance, it's a wonderful way to get an instantaneous word out to people, right? When we're we had to rely on traditional media in the past, and sometimes that's a little slower than
you have to wait till they're actually doing the newscast.
Right, or wait till the paper's printed the next day or the next week or something like that. But boy, I tell you, Facebook, we can get a message out saying we need blood now they'll be there.
It spreads.
We better be ready to take the people that come, because they'll be coming, that's for sure. So Facebook has changed the way that we recruit a lot, but a lot of it still boils down to an excellent donor recruiter, a committed chairperson that's on site, that's willing to go the extra mile to make sure that their blood drive, that they take ownership, is going to come off correctly, and that's still probably the best way to get things done.
Great. Well, I know before we run out of time, I'm kind of curious as far as the people who give, do they ever find out who receives the blood or how you communicate that?
Well, I'm glad you asked. We're starting a new program. It's in the testing stage right now. We hope to have it rolled out community-wide and area-wide by the end of the year. It's called Thank the Donor. What it's going to be is little green plastic tags that are affixed to every blood bag, and whenever a transfusion takes place in an area hospital, hopefully the donor or the nurse or somebody will outline or pay attention to the thing. On the back of the Thank the Donor plastic heart, it's a heart, by the way, a green heart. You can't miss it. It's Dayglow green, says Thank the Donor. On the back of that, though, is a way that a person can anonymously contact the person that provided this blood, and they can thank them via email, via text, something like that. I think it's going to be a great program. Our donors are always wondering where their blood goes and whether it's really helping or not. And this is one way I think they're going to find out that, yeah, indeed, there's a person on the end of that donation, a person that's going to directly benefit from your generosity.
Really personalizes it for them. And Belinda, before we run out of time, I know we've been talking about donors and drives, but you also have an ongoing operation in Joplin. Let's review where they can go for that.
Yes, thank you. Yes, we're at the Joplin Center every day, Monday through Friday, 11 to 6. Our Joplin Center is inside the original entrance to the North Park Mall, and you're welcome to come in there anytime. You can call in or go online and make an appointment if you'd like, or just stop by anytime. We have a facility, of course, in Springfield on Plainview Road, and then in Springdale or Bentonville in Arkansas, if you happen to be in Northwest Arkansas. But right here in Joplin is at the Joplin Center, the North Park Mall.
Great. Well, a lot of information provided, and like I mentioned, you have the website that people can find out more details, and social media, traditional media like this, trying to find out what's happening and sharing that information with everyone. So I'd like to thank both of you for joining me today.
Thank you.
Judy, thank you. It's a pleasure.
You're welcome. And I'd like to thank you, the viewers, for joining us this week on Newsmakers. I'm Judy Stiles. Hope you can join me again next week at the same time on the station. We'll see you then.